Hi there, Disney fans! Welcome to The Binger. All animated movie characters start the same way, with a blank page. Their look might be influenced by the story being told, the actor who voices them, and whether they're good or bad. But when an animated project starts, its characters could go in almost any direction. That's why when it comes to Disney's animated movies, the original concept art often looks nothing like the final character. As the movie evolves, so do the characters' designs. And that's what makes Disney's initial ideas so fascinating. In this video, we're taking a look at the way some of Disney's popular characters looked in their original concept art. A few of them might surprise you. My, what a big head you have, Woody! Before Woody became the lean, loose-limbed toy who starred in 4 Toy Story movies, filmmakers considered making him a ventriloquist dummy. These early concepts show what might have been. Especially in the full-color rendering, Woody has the soulless eyes you might expect from one of those wooden dolls. While he's softened in the pencil sketch, his oversized head still makes it clear the character could have been very different. The one thing that remained consistent throughout every iteration is Woody's signature cowboy look. His cowboy hat, boots, plaid shirt, and vest ensured that he was always recognizable as a toy with a Western theme. And in the black and white drawing, you can even see he already had his pull string too. Meanwhile, the initial concept for Buzz Lightyear is a lot more streamlined than the action figure who became Woody's best friend. Instead of articulated parts, this version looks much more cuddly, but also less capable of going to infinity and beyond. 1991's Beauty and the Beast came with a lot of unique challenges for animators. How to make a man who was turned into an angry beast lovable was only one of them. The artists also had to figure out how to bring household objects, from candelabras to dusters to teapots, to life. An early concept for the stuffy clock Cogsworth demonstrates one experiment. The Cogsworth we know from the movie is short and stout, both in human and clock form. As a clock, he can fit on a high shelf just as easily as he can propel himself around the beast's castle. Yet this artwork shows that initially the character was envisioned a little differently. This tall, slender version of Cogsworth would have turned into a full-sized grandfather clock. As a result, Cogsworth would be the same height, whether he was a man or a household object. The images show this Cogsworth's progression from proper 18th century Frenchman, complete with a wig, to an elaborately designed clock. It's a compelling idea, even if it didn't make it to the big screen. The movie Moana tells the story of a girl who follows the call of the sea. Although it's forbidden to sail too far from the island she calls home, when her people are in trouble, Moana decides to break the rules. And she ends up saving everyone she loves, meeting a demigod and changing her culture's way of life in the process. Moana followed the tradition of many Disney animated films that feature female protagonists by having Moana appear to be a teenager. It turns out that wasn't the original idea though. In early concept art, the character is significantly younger. She also seems to be controlling the shell shown coming out of the water. This indicates that this version of Moana would have been more in touch with her magical ability to control the ocean. Ultimately, co-director John Musker said she was aged up because the filmmakers wanted her to be a believable action heroine. That meant Moana needed to look strong and capable of handling all the physical challenges she encounters throughout the film. While the change resulted in the Moana we know becoming less magical, she's still incredibly powerful. Sully and Boo from Monsters, Inc. have one of the sweetest relationships seen in any Disney movie. When Boo looks at Sully, she just sees an oversized fuzzy blue kitty, and Sully feels the need to protect Boo when the toddler finds herself in Monstropolis. Yet the original characters were very different. In this concept art, Sully is still blue, but between the red nose and lack of fur, he looks a lot less cuddly. Boo's initial concept was even more different. She looks to be several years older than she was in the final film. She's wearing glasses, and she and Sully look to be having some kind of argument as they stand by her door. Based on this, it looks like Boo and Sully's parting might have originally been envisioned as contentious. We definitely prefer the touching scene we got, where Sully takes an unsuspecting Boo back to her room and then sadly parts ways with her. Get a load of this handsome devil! The Hades we know from Hercules is a sarcastic, scornful guy with flaming blue hair and the voice of James Woods. Yet Hades didn't just go through several concepts, he also went through several voice actors. And before James Woods came on board, Jack Nicholson was seriously considered for the role. This early design seems to have been created with Nicholson in mind. This is a more classic devil look complete with sunglasses and horns. However, the animator still managed to add some humorous twists to the character's look with green socks and dapper red heels. This red devil would have been quite different from Woods' version. He looks like he would have been more cool and suave than put upon and funny. This might have worked if Nicholson voiced the character. In the end, Woods created a classic Disney villain that was perfect for the Hades that we eventually saw on screen. If you don't already subscribe to The Binger, why not take a moment and do it right now? And don't forget to click on that bell to make sure you get notifications about new videos. After all, we all know how YouTube can be sometimes. Also, if you're watching this on mobile and you want to enable notifications, check out your YouTube settings. Now, let's take a look at more Disney character concept art. We never had a friend like Aladdin's big blue genie, but that might have changed if the movie went with some of these early concepts. While Robin Williams is famous for voicing the character in the 1992 film, Eric Goldberg was the one responsible for his design. And Goldberg went through quite a few iterations before settling on the final product. This first design shows an odd concoction of parts that doesn't make a lot of sense together. While the turban fits in the movie's city of Agrabah, this genie's horns and pointy nails make him look a lot more intimidating. It just doesn't seem to work for the happy-go-lucky wish-granting being that we know. Then there's this second concept, where he's rounder, but mostly because he's developed quite a beer belly. In fact, the genie's upper body and head look shrunken in comparison to his oversized midsection. Plus, the prominent teeth make him look like he's leering in a way that's downright uncomfortable. It's hard to imagine this genie throwing out gag after gag at a mile a minute like the blue guy that we love did. We don't know about you, but we're glad these designs didn't make it into the movie. Cruella de Vil from 1961's 101 Dalmatians is one of the most iconic Disney villains out there. She was designed by Disney legend Mark Davis. Davis was the enormously talented creative mind behind characters like Sleeping Beauty's Maleficent and Peter Pan's Tinkerbell. Each of his designs is remarkably impressive, and Miss de Vil is no exception. The fur coat coveting character who decides Dalmatian fur is the very height of fashion isn't magical or otherworldly. She's a human being, just an incredibly cruel and twisted one. And from Davis's first sketches, you can see the character start to come to life. While Cruella went through a series of iterations, the basics seem to have been there from the get-go. In each concept, you can see the character is a haughty fashionista who favors an ostentatious lifestyle. Her slinky looks are both attractive and repellent. She's sort of like a glitzed-up praying mantis. In these early designs, Cruella was envisioned as more of a contemporary of Roger and Anita. In the final version, she was older than the couple. It's a trait that gives her more authority over the pair and perhaps made her feel more entitled to their precious puppies. While Disney never entirely stopped making animated movies, 1989's The Little Mermaid was the film that returned it to its former glory. And part of the movie's appeal was its perfectly drawn characters. One of those characters was King Triton, father to Ariel. While Ariel just wanted to be part of the human world, Triton despised the land dwellers and was determined to make his daughter feel the same. Unfortunately, the king only succeeded in driving Ariel to make a terrible mistake, a mistake he ultimately stepped in to take her penalty for. Yet, it might have been hard to see Triton as a protective father with a noble demeanor if the filmmakers went with his original design. This concept art for King Triton is odd to say the least. Bald with a Fu Manchu mustache, this version of Triton doesn't make for a convincing father figure. He looks more skeptical than full of fatherly concern. Luckily, the animators realized the character should lose the odd stylization and be aged up. This made his clashes with his youngest daughter, as well as his devotion to her, much more realistic. Wreck-It Ralph tells the endearing tale of a video game villain who decides he wants to become a hero. Yet that journey would have been much more difficult if either of these initial character designs made it into the final film. It's easy to understand where the filmmakers were coming from, though. Bad guys in early arcade video games were often oversized monstrous animals, like Bowser or Donkey Kong, so it makes sense that the character of Ralph might look that way too. However, these early versions of the character look less like the protagonist of a movie and more like extras from Monsters, Inc. This red monster in particular looks positively terrifying. And with its spiked club hands, it would be difficult to prove itself as a hero. The white monster has some elements that make him more like Ralph from the movie. He's wearing overalls, and although his oversized fists are intimidating, at least he can use them for something other than smashing. Ultimately, though, making the character human helped the audience identify with this underdog even more. If you're looking for terrifying early concept art, look no further than this original design for Snow White. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was Disney's very first feature-length animated film. Yet we'd wager if the filmmakers had gone with this design for its leading lady, the film might not have been such a success. The design gives Snow White seriously oversized eyes that throw the rest of her face completely out of proportion. This makes her look more disconcerting than the fairest of them all. Walt Disney and his team fared better with their initial concept for the dwarfs. While they look more like garden gnomes than the characters as we know them, they aren't nearly as unsettling as the original sketch for Snow White. In the end, the characters were all given more realistic features. Snow White's face has more true-to-life proportions, and the dwarves are drawn to be a little less blocky and a bit taller. Imagine how it might have changed the movies these characters star in if they looked like they did in their original concept art. Which of these characters' original looks surprised you the most? Were there any you liked better than the final character designs seen in the films? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to The Binger for more fun and insightful pop culture content. As always, thanks for watching.